Well, never mind. We're good. Just
take her away downtown, walking fast, gonna start the podcast. Nah, meh. Okay. Here we go, 3, 2. Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jeremy.
And on this show, I apparently sing a lead-in to start it.
That's good.
But this week, that didn't make sense to any of you all, because I sang
a
song.
Oh, it will. I'm going to put it in.
Okay, good. So as long as you have context, this week we're talking about an album that's near and dear to me. It's by the Wingnut Dishwashers Union, Burn the Earth, Leave It Behind. And
this is the second Pat the Bunny album.
Yep.
In our 5-album tour of folk punk. Last week we did that one album.
Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains, Love Songs for the Apocalypse.
Yeah, and I liked it.
Yeah. I hope you like this album.
In context. So we'll see what happens here.
It's the same singer. So
same singer, same kind of music mostly.
Same guitar player. Kind of. One of them at least.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
For the thing. We're gonna spoil right into Proudhon and Manhattan.
There you go.
Oh man. I feel like we've been off for a while and we haven't.
Well,
something weird's happening.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will give a heads up that segues are kind of hard with folk punk songs because a lot of them are like long, specific titles.
I feel like this will be fine. We'll be fine this week.
Yeah, okay. Well, as long as you have the confidence.
I'm feeling good.
Well, there we go. So
track number 1.
Proudhon in Manhattan.
Proudhon in Manhattan.
What do you think?
It's got some crisp, clear acoustic guitar. Clearly, immediately you notice that the production value of this album is higher than of the Johnny Hobo album from last week. Pat's vocals come in. It's not great. his voice, he sings more clean in this album for the most part than the harsh stuff that was on Johnny Hobo. And I kind of feel like it's worse because of that. And I totally get that, like, all of the screaming and shit all of the time that he was probably doing for the Johnny Hobo era is probably not great for your throat. But I don't know. This felt like it was a step in the wrong direction for me, just because I'm picky about vocals. And there are times throughout this album that it's okay. We'll get to that. I think mostly it's noticeable just when it's just him and the guitar and he's singing a lot of like melodies and stuff, and he misses a lot. And even on this song, when he tries to like scream at some points, it's kind of rough. But then the full band comes in and I'm like, whoa, holy shit, we have more than just a guitar. It's a full band experience now. He's got drums, he's got like a string section that's kind of accompanying him that comes in for the outro, and it all just kind of like it caught me off guard. This is not what I was expecting this album to be. And we'll see how I feel about the rest of the album, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so that makes complete sense. I kind of thought that you were not going to like the vocals this time as much because you say he misses some notes. Like, I definitely think the Johnny Hobo era scream, because he would literally just play a show every night doing those songs, like literally every single night, because he needed a place to sleep, so he would just play at somebody's house and sleep there. And so he was just screaming every night. I think that definitely took a toll on his voice, because you can hear like vocal breaks where his voice like cracks whenever he's trying to go like scream or just yell at certain points in this album. And his vocals, while the production quality is up, are less refined, I guess. It's a weird contrast, because like the musical part of the album got better except for his voice, and his voice seems to have gotten worse, and so it's this kind of weird like dissonance. I'm not a stickler for vocals, and I like this rawness in his voice. Whenever this isn't like my angry music or anything. I mean, not that Johnny Hobo is, but whenever I'm like amped up, that's when I'll listen to like Johnny Hobo, whenever I'm feeling like just going nuts, I guess. And this one is kind of a more introspective album. I guess I feel like the lyrical quality of this album is better, but we'll get to that. And so yeah, like there's the full band. His vocals are different. And I don't know, like, I feel like they hit a folk punk, like what folk punk, I guess, is thought of by people who know what it is but don't listen to it. Like they hit
Yeah,
that sound with the folkiness.
yeah. This I kind of feel like even on this album, it gets a bit more just like punk rock at times. With like
Yeah.
even kind of, it never really leaves the folk territory necessarily, but it definitely like brings in more rock elements. I mean, there's distorted guitar on several songs throughout the album, so it kind of felt more rocky to me than folksy at times. But the folk is still like through it all.
Well, that's true. I can't say I'm surprised that the vocals were in the wrong direction, but let's talk about some lyrics because last week you were talking about how I mean, while Pat was very self-aware at that time,
Hmm.
there was still a lot of I guess disagreeable or hot takes that he
Sure.
had on there. So what did you think of some vocals or some
I'm gonna
lyrics?
warn you guys. I mean, I think this episode's gonna be shorter, hopefully, than the prior two. No promises. I kind of went off the rails at points in this album and just
Oh,
kind of like rambled on a bit about just general like punk anarchy stuff again. But we'll get to that when we get there. We're not there yet. I'm just giving a disclaimer that while Pat the Bunny is definitely central, I think there are points in my notes where I was just like kind of going off on a tirade about the genre or whatever. But anyways, this one, Proud in Manhattan, it seems to me at least that it's kind of along the same like self-aware anarchism that we talked about last week. He talks about dreaming of the utopia that I criticized a few weeks back, and every time that I talk about punk music, it seems that I kind of bring up where everyone just kind of like cleans up after themselves. The government's not needed. But then he wakes up from his dream in the song or whatever, and he's burning down Times Square. So it's kind of like an interesting contrast of like it seems self-aware that he's acknowledging that it is a dream kind of a thing and saying that, man, that would be great. And then he comes back to reality and he's destroying things, which is kind of the big complaint that I have with a lot of this like punk anarchy stuff is that there's only two extremes that they see, where it's like utopia or complete disarray kind of a thing, when in reality it doesn't seem, at least to me, that either of them are super feasible for society and civilization. At the end of the song there's a quote, and I'm hoping maybe that you can clarify this, but there's a quote from the titular Proudhon.
Pierre Joseph Proudhon.
Yeah,
Proudhon.
PJ Proudhon. I don't know. He says property is robbery at the end. Well, I guess the full line is throw your hands in the air because property is robbery. And I put a little bit of thought into it, but I couldn't really like figure out the angle he was trying to hit with that. And I am intrigued by it. And I, if you don't have a great insight into it, then I might look into it on my personal time, just
I
because
would
I'm
I would
curious.
I would definitely recommend looking into it because there are, while I can't say that I necessarily agree with like anarchism or anything,
Mhm.
um, there's a lot of ideals in it that I think if we're brought into, I guess, regular society would benefit society greatly for the better.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of the personal responsibility that gets talked about in this song, where it's like, if we just fucking did our things, government would become obsolete. Like if we could all just like put in our share and fix stuff whenever it gets broken, if we could help each other out, if we could like just learn to live as a community, it kind of this, not necessarily government as an idea, but
Hmm.
like government as an authority could kind of be made obsolete if we could all just kind of do our own shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on that. I agree in some aspects and disagree in others. I That's one of the things that I kind of rant about at the end of my notes, I think, this week. So we'll come back to that, I think. But yeah, I definitely don't instantly disagree with anything that he says on this album for the most part. Like he again, he seems to be more self-aware and more rational in his thoughts or feelings about the whole situation, which is a positive, because a lot of this kind of folk punk stuff, like I've mentioned before, just kind of like it comes off as shallow or like very very short-sighted, I suppose. But Pat the Bunny, he seems to have put some genuine thought into it, which is nice.
Yeah, so this album to me was like, I don't know, it was kind of the start of a change in me where Johnny Hobo was more like, there was definitely still like political anger and violence that he wanted to like blow shit up and like
Yeah,
just be a general hooligan, I guess, in the punk sense. And this album, I feel like, is more him embracing the personal responsibility, like the idea that it's better to be decent to each other and
right.
kind of take societal issues head on instead of just that teenage angst, that chaos. And it's kind of where I internalized, I don't want to say like a conscience because I had one before then, but kind of the thought that I don't need to be railing against literally everything in my life.
Yeah,
Because if I'm just like nice to people, or if I'm just like not a shitbag, not a like a gatekeeping asshole who's like shitting on people's good times, or just like breaking people's things that they worked for, or like whatever, just not being a general shithead, it's going to work out a lot better because that's not what punk is about. Punk's not about being a fucking asshole. Punk's about kindness. And I think this was the album that like showed me that.
yeah, and furthermore, like even outside of punk, like you're gonna get farther in life being nice to people than you are being mean to people, because that's just how people are, right? Like
Yeah.
people are more receptive and more responsive to positive actions than negative actions. Like
Yeah. Like,
when you're raising a dog or raising a child, there's this. I mean, I guess it's quote unquote modern at this point, the kind of school of thought of like not necessarily physically punishing your children when they fuck up, and
yeah.
instead encouraging the positives, or doing some other things. I'm not a parent, so I haven't really looked into it, but I'm aware that is the current trend, is more positivity based.
Yeah. As a parent, I'll go ahead and say that, not that I've tried the alternative, but the not physical abuse part definitely seems to be working out a-okay. So I'd recommend it highly.
It gives you time to control your daughter. Well, not controls. I mean, I guess to some extent control your daughter, and still have time to do your things, like playing a guitar. You'd say that you're a man who plays guitar, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I might go off the handle, and you can never trust a man who plays guitar.
Oh, so you're saying that maybe it's not a good thing the way you're raising. I'm just joking. Track number 2 is never trust a man who plays guitar.
It's all for the segue,
It
folks.
was
Don't
all for
I'm
the segue. You can
I'm
trust
not an
Joey.
abusive person.
He's a good guy. This one, it starts with some kind of like pounding drum toms, and then like an accordion kind of instrument comes in. I'm not sure if it was actually an accordion, but
I
it had
think
that
it
kind of
is.
sound to it. There's definitely a bigger focus on the music of this album that I noted, which again, it's welcome, even if it's mostly like simple and repetitive stuff. It's still like it's a progression from Johnny Hobo in that aspect. But his voice, I noted it several times in my notes. I cannot get over his voice most of the time.
Well, I like his voice on here. So we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, because again, this album, specifically the song later on this album, is what I consider in my mind like the epitome of Joey music. So it makes perfect sense that you enjoy every aspect.
Yeah.
And again, this has personal connection. Does this album feel, I don't want to use the word better, when you think of Pat the Bunny and which album had the biggest impact on you as a person, is it this album, or is it one of the other two that we have done / are going to do?
Um
Or
I
is it all just kind of like the same, just the concept of Pat the Bunny is what had the effect on you?
I will say the concept of Pat the Bunny is what had the effect on me, but I think it's either this album or the next album we're going to talk about as far as like actual impact. I mean, Johnny Hobo, it definitely like it grabbed my attention and it kind of made me think about
Mm-hmm.
where I was in life. But I'd say as far as like having an impact, this album and potentially the next album that we're going to do are the ones that I guess I would pick. Most likely this album though.
Okay, interesting. I was just trying to figure out what the personal aspect tie-in of it all was. So I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's kind of a journey. He goes, Pat the Bunny is kind of progressing as a person and changing who he is, and that's obviously inspiring to people, especially young people, to want to change who they are.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going through like a lot of shit whenever I first started like listening to these, especially this one, because I had kind of hit a turning point in my life where like I was at a crossroads, and I feel like not that I necessarily fixed my life at this crossroads, but I think I definitely could have taken a very bad way and not been the person that I am today.
Well, I'm glad that you did that.
Me too. Yeah, it worked out for the better. Although I'll never actually know what untold fun awaited me on the other side of that crossroads, but it's fine over here. So
hell yeah. Lyrically, this one track too. It seems that it's about Pat kind of criticizing anarchists and himself included for talking the talk without walking the walk, so to speak, where he kind of like he feels that he wants to actually do the things he talks about and sings about instead of just saying things that won't have any effect, kind of a thing.
yeah, it's definitely like actions speak louder than words type deal.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing the actions, then you're being dishonest, which I mean, that's like the way he ends this song is the day I rob a bank's the first day of my life as an honest man. Like,
Yeah.
which we know he's not going to rob a bank. Like, I don't think he has ever robbed a bank. I'm not going to implicate him in any crimes, but I don't think he has done that. And that's what he's saying. He's like, even I'm singing it and I'm not out there necessarily doing the extreme things that I'm singing about. And
Right.
but he also does kind of weave in, like whenever he's saying don't trust a man who plays guitar, I think he's talking to authority, like in the sense that with every great societal change there's always like musicians who are on the cusp of it, kind of spreading the word, making it more popular. And so I think he's kind of saying that while he is fulfilling that role, he admits that he's like, I'm not out there on the front lines like blowing shit up. I'm not dismantling capitalism like physically right now.
He's just playing the music to inspire people to maybe do that for him.
Yeah, or just to do something. Just anything.
Embody what you speak instead of just pretending, I suppose.
But yeah, I like this song.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a cool song. I think he just kind of like wants to fuck shit up with his guitar. You know, go out, play some shows, fuck some shit up.
One
Go on to track number 3, which is titled "Fuck Shit Up." Wanana.
Yeah, okay. There's 2 nanas.
It's a subtitle. It has some groovy dancing guitars and drums in this one, and this is the one that I first noted that he's moving kind of away from just the pure like stripped down acoustic folk stuff to more rock stuff. And in this track, because of that, I think his vocals seem to fit a bit better, for me at least. And this one could almost fit on like a Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack, I think.
Yeah,
it's got that kind of vibe.
This one is legit just a punk song. Like I will say it's just a punk rock. I mean, it's still got, I guess, like the backup instruments you wouldn't hear in a normal punk rock outfit.
The acoustic stays throughout the entire album. Like there's never like a song that just doesn't have acoustic guitar, I don't think.
Yeah, and like musically, like you said earlier, things aren't going to be changing up too much. And I know that's kind of what we've just been saying for these past few weeks, but it's not.
We're doing this because the lyrical content is more important, especially in relation to you, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think this song definitely, like, it makes you want to move. It shows Pat's versatility in the overall punk genre, that he can kind of have, at least to me, anything behind him musically, and he will make whatever it is punk. So, or just like have that same energy, I guess. Like he can bring that energy to any musical genre he sings in front of. So,
are you spoiling that next week is not going to be a folk punk album? It's going to be like an electronic album.
Oh no. I mean, he has in the past done stuff with like drum machines and electronic stuff. He has an album that's like almost set up like a play where he's like a preacher in a deep southern town that the devil has taken over. Like he's kind of all out there.
Yeah,
but
it's a creative.
Like, yeah, he's a creative dude. But like lyrically, this song, it's fun, and it talks about, I guess, like why punk music hits so many people.
Yeah,
like in the way that it does, where it's talking about a punk rock song won't ever change the world, but I can tell you about a couple that changed me. Is like, to hear him say that, where like a guy that is super into the punk scene, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to write a song and it's not going to do all these things that I'm talking about. I'm not going to change the government, but if I can inspire change in other people, then if I do that enough, it can affect change out in the world, just in the littlest ways that can end up having a big impact.
Yeah, I can see that, and I definitely think that's his intention. I kind of felt like it was more of him saying, maybe this is just me and my mindset kind of combating the general sentiment of a lot of his stuff, but it felt more to me like he's saying like, yeah, I know I'm not changing the world. Like in the last track, he was saying like he doesn't walk the walk, he talks the talk, kind of a thing. And this is him kind of saying like, yeah, I know that what I'm doing isn't going to change the world, but it's how I want to live. This is how I have to be, because that's what makes me me, kind of thing, which kind of veers a little bit into that chaos for the sake of chaos territory a little bit for me. Which, I mean, again, I don't think he's necessarily wrong to desire that kind of freedom, because it's great. But I think it's kind of short-sighted and idealized. I think maybe even like borderline delusional, thinking that like cops and politicians are the only thing keeping from people being free. Because maybe this is cynical of me, but I think people keep people from being free, because it's just the nature of people. People like having control and power over others, and I feel like the chaotic anarchism fits into that category. Like it feels good to fight the man and stand out as a rebel, and that's why kids and teenagers always rebel against their parents, because people crave that kind of power and control, even when it's against the power and control, kind of a thing.
Yeah, like, I mean, it does hit a point where everybody's the man. Like,
Right.
you're going to end up alone, which he does touch on in certain songs. Like, I think there's one on this album, but he has a lot of other songs that are talking about like the loneliness that comes with it. And it's totally true. Like, and as far as, I guess, the authority or people keeping people down, just how he sums it up in the beginning of this song, where he's saying, I don't believe in cops, bosses, or politicians. Some call that anarchism. I call it having a fucking heart that beats.
Right.
Which, like, I agree with that sentiment of, I guess, the anarchism, where it's like, you don't believe in people taking the kind of overstepping the authority of other people.
Right.
And like, that's the part you want to get away from, not necessarily just balking at all authority everywhere, which
yeah.
I totally do in my life. Like, if there's the smallest amount of authority or just anybody telling me to do anything, I'm just like, fuck you, get out of here. Like,
I'll do it because I want to do it, not because you told me to.
I am totally still that 5-year-old that's like, I wanted to do this, but you told me to do it, so now I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. I think we all have that even maybe the cops perhaps have that. So fuck every cop whoever did his job, or every copy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Fuck every copy. The metadata that has been spewed out into the internet has titled this track "Fuck Every Copy." It's actually called "Fuck Every Cop." Track number 4.
Whoever did his job, by the way.
Whoever did his job. It's a subtitle.
So apparently, if it's a female cop, it doesn't matter. And if that cop just doesn't do their job, then I guess that's fine too.
Yes. Whoever did his job, because all cops are men.
Yeah.
At least they were back in the early days of 2009.
There was a point where all cops were guys, but
yeah, not in 2009.
Not in 2009. I have several cops in, well, I guess not several, but I have a few cops in my family, and some of them are female.
Yeah, okay. Well, good for them. I'm not the one shouting "fuck every cop." Whoever did his or her job. I couldn't even say
I
that.
can't say I disagree with the sentiment, but I guess I won't be screaming it.
Musically, this one it kind of reaches further into the punk rock territory. I think for me, it still keeps a lot of the acoustic guitar sounds and the more folksy things, but it feels more rocky again. And again, I know that his voice sounds a bit better amidst this kind of music, but I couldn't figure out if it was just because maybe it was less prominent in the mix because there was so much else going on that it kind of covered his voice a bit better for me. There's kind of an interesting change in this song. The song ends around the 2-minute mark a little bit earlier and then goes into this kind of like slower second section where his vocals sound like he walked out of the room and he's in like another room or in the hallway or something yelling it. Well, the instruments retain their clarity and their fidelity, so like it was kind of a weird option, I think. And then the song picks back up again and it sounds like he's come back into the booth or into the room or whatever, and he kind of picks it back up, and then there's kind of this chuggy rocky outro kind of thing going on, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they actually changed something.
They did
for a while. It's nice, and it has a cello in it too, or what sounds like a cello.
There are a couple string sections throughout this album. They're always welcome.
Yeah, every song needs a string section.
Every song,
every single song. This one, like lyrically, so the song is called "Fuck Every Cop Whoever Did His Job." We're just gonna take that at face value. It's not entirely what the song is about.
Yeah, so I would like to maybe disagree and say that like the song, the quote that the song title comes from, he says, "I fell in love again that time that you said, fuck every cop whoever did his job, and fuck every bank that never got robbed, and fuck all the other banks, especially mine." So I think, I don't know, I think I might have gotten something slightly different than you did, but I'll let you go ahead and give your thoughts on the song.
Yeah, so like I think the falling in love part, I mean, we can also take that at face value because he's just straight up telling somebody, he's like, yeah, I fell in love whenever you said that. And I always have taken that as like him, I guess, getting swept up in that. Not that he doesn't believe it, but being like seeing the energy and the excitement of somebody else, and you kind of,
or just like the whole like movement, I guess. Not even specifically just a person necessarily, but just like finding a group of people like-minded like that.
Yeah, because I mean that's like what the other part of this song is. It's talking about like you got to keep fighting the good fight. If you only lose if you give up. Like, and just I like the way that the song starts. And if we decide that freedom is impossible, then we'll prove ourselves right. But if that's the truth, then I think that there's worse things in this world than being wrong. Like you're only going to lose to the man or whoever if you give up. And if you give up, then there's no point in not fighting, because even if you're fighting for a dumb cause that's never going to happen, then at least you're doing it. And if you give up, then what do you have, I guess?
Yeah, you need to stay true to yourself and your ideals and your beliefs. Not saying that you should be unreceptive to new ideas, because I think it's important for growth as a person to just be able to hear a different perspective on things and be open to that changing the way you feel. But yeah, you got to kind of like, you got to stick to your guns and go for what you feel is right, even if it might be a stupid cause or even if it gets you killed or whatever, which is something I think he goes into a bit later in the album. But yeah, the song, in addition to what you said, I kind of maybe focused in a bit too much on shortly after what you read, he says, "And I suppose you got to be a little crazy to believe that we shall be free, but I'm insane and I'm not alone," which was the big takeaway for me. Was more of the like, yeah, it might be crazy to believe in this better world without order, but it's what I believe, and there are other people like me, so at least I'm not the only crazy person out here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm with him in that aspect where it's like, I would rather be crazy or seen as crazy in an attempt to be a little bit of a dreamer, I guess, rather than just be like, it's whatever. Like, I'm trying to kick my cynicism, I guess, is
Yeah, you're trying to care
what it
about
is.
something.
Yeah, which it's hard. Like, you have to try, and it takes a lot of effort sometimes, and I definitely fall back into the not caring or being cynical
Yeah.
camp a lot, but I try. I make an active effort to care about things.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to care about things.
Yeah, and I don't know where to go from here. Like,
I
honestly,
thought you were about to segue. You sounded so confident in what you were saying, and I thought that it was a segue previously, and then I was like, no, he's just finishing up his thoughts on it. Track number 5. Urine speaks louder than words.
is this the one you were talking about whenever you
Yeah.
said quintessential?
This is the song that I vividly remember hearing from you playing it in your car, maybe?
It was
I
either
don't
in my car or in the unspecified pizza place,
Yeah, or both. More
or
more
both.
likely both. But yeah, urine speaks louder than words. I vividly I've remembered that line for years. Just urine speaks louder than words because it's the quintessential Joey music. It's horrible. I hate it. No, I'm not gonna say that. But I did know that this was that song. This one's kind of a bit more stripped down from the prior tracks. It gets back to that kind of folky feeling, and it has the clean vocals that feel like nails on a chalkboard. To me, is what I said. I actually do really like the music and the guitar on this track a lot. The guitar sounds great.
Yeah, it does. Like, this song, every time I hear it, I cannot not sing along at full volume. It's just so good. It's so catchy, and it just gets stuck in my head all the time. It's just it I like you say it's quintessential me music, and I wouldn't disagree with you
Yeah.
because, like, 50% of the time I feel like this is what's playing in my head. Just like that opening guitar part, not even necessarily the words all the time. It's just like it's just an acoustic guitar, but it's just
It sounds good.
it sounds
It's
so
a
good.
good sounding riff and a good sounding guitar. He
Ah,
did it good. And lyrically, I actually like the lyrics in this one a lot as well. This one seems to be more critical of anarchists and other activists that do speak without doing anything, which is kind of a theme that we've been talking about is talking about action instead of doing said action or whatever. The first verse, he's basically just making empty promises that he's going to clean up his act and stop criticizing the government. And then the chorus comes in, and he's just saying, fuck that. Actions speak louder than words, but he's doing it in a cheeky way, but saying urine speaks louder than words. But then he kind of returns back to this criticizing of activists in the second verse. The third verse, though, it doesn't really tie in. I don't. Maybe you can make some sort of tie in with it, but the third verse just comes in and it's about racism, which kind of felt just like it felt out of place. Like he was just like going, "Yeah, fuck the government. Also, racism is bad." And like, "Yeah, fuck the government," kind of a thing. Regardless of that not tying in, I do really like the third verse. He says, "I don't gotta tell you, crackers are great with amnesia when they want to forget something like centuries of racism," which is just it's funny, it's humorous, it's true, and I hate it.
yeah, I think he just added it in there, like, not to say that it fits necessarily, but I think he just put it in there because, like, it works on its own, and,
Right.
like, outside of the context, I guess, of the rest of the song, and maybe he's, I guess, saying that, like, he's criticizing himself, or he's very self-aware and realizing that, like, I don't know, he's it's hard to do the actions that he's talking about, and just he's trying to turn a corner, or maybe wanting to turn a corner, and wants it, but maybe won't necessarily get there. But then he's keeping, like, the activism is the constant there,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the line before it, where he's saying, "But will somebody say, is this resistance or a costume party? Either way, I think black with bandanas is a boring theme." Kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I think with that, he's saying like, why are you people mobbing the streets just because it's trendy and cool, and you want to be part of something, or is this actually like, is there actually a purpose? Is there something that you're actually doing other than just congregating and pretending to give a shit about something?
yeah, yeah. I like the verse too. I like all the verses. I just like
Yeah, I like the song.
this song. It kind of made me rethink. This is one of those songs that really made me kind of like rethink my life at the time. Just that whole first verse where he's talking about like, I swear that someday I'll tell you without lying that I was born to quit smoking. I was born to quit dying. And it's just realizing that you're trapped in an action or a set of actions, a set of vices, and you're there's so many times where people are like concerned for you or just shit like that, and you are kind of just lying to people where you're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll get better, like I'll try, and there's gonna be a point where you're either gonna have to hit it, where you're either gonna accept that you're not trying or you're gonna try.
yeah,
And I I guess this song kind of like threw me into that point where I was like, well, I guess I should try and
yeah.
not
I'm
be a
I'm
fucking liar
curious.
anymore.
I'm curious as a Pat the Bunny concept. Did he as a person? Did he? I mean, I guess this a lot of this album seems to me that he's talking about people not doing the actions that they're talking about, right? He criticizes himself for doing that, and he's saying, I'm a musician, I'm doing this, I'm singing about doing these things, but I'm not actually doing them. Did he ever reach that point where he did go out? Was he like actually involved in a lot of like activism stuff? Was he actually like doing things to bring about some sort of change, or was it mostly just something for him to sing about?
He was. I don't think he was like necessarily out there causing riots and stuff, but I know he was like, and still is, an activist, like protesting and
Mm.
like I I don't have any information, I guess, on whether or not he was like burning shit to the ground.
Right.
I don't think he was in any sort of major way. Maybe he was like during a protest there was some stuff that got like burned and he was maybe a part of it. I don't know any of that. I'm not going to implicate him in
Right.
anything, but I feel like that had it happened that would have probably been the extent of it. No, like having seen plenty of interviews and knowing him that way. Not I don't know him personally or anything, so I guess I can't say
Right.
anything with certainty, but he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would like burn down a city block because
Yeah,
it
I
has a
wasn't
department store in it.
I wasn't necessarily trying to imply that he would be inciting riots and shit like that. I was just curious to what extent he participated in trying to make the world the utopia that he dreams of in this album, and if it was just him mostly just talking about it instead of wanting to do
He's tried more than me, so I'll give him that.
it. That's fair enough. I can't criticize. I mean, I guess I can't criticize. That's what I'm doing, but
Yeah. That's what we do here
yeah,
on
we
Feedback
gotta
Loop.
we gotta pick sides and stick with them until we die. You gotta die on that hill because
Yeah.
we can't go back on our word. We can't change as people.
Yeah, we can't change, and the only thing that's changing here is the track number because we're talking about track number 6, picking sides.
Hell
There we
yeah!
go. That one worked.
I think this song might be my favorite one on the album.
Ooh, okay.
It's got a. I really like the chord progression that's used here, and the bass line comes in. It's smooth as butter. It's got this kind of like southern bluesy feeling to the progression
Hmm.
and bass line that I really enjoy. Also, this weird faint whistling
Yep.
that's going on in the background that I don't really care for, but it's very faint, so it's easy to not lock in on it. There's also a little piano section that comes in that kind of caught me off guard. Is really cool, and I think musically this one comes together a lot for me.
Yeah, this is, I'd say, one of the better songs musically, just because of that cool, slow, kind of waltzy,
Yeah.
bluesy feeling that it has. And I think that high pitched sound is a singing saw or a theremin.
Oh.
But if it's a singing saw, it would explain a lot because I've always kind of, it sounds like something from a Neutral Milk Hotel song
Yeah.
because they have a singing saw. They have a dedicated singing saw player in their band.
What a cool band.
I know, but that's kind of what it's always reminded me of. And I was looking around, and it was people seem to be in one camp singing saw, one camp theremin. I'm sure there's an answer out there that I just was too stupid to find, but
I mean, there's not a lot of information out there about Pat the Bunny in general, right? Like he's pretty off the web.
yeah, and he tries to stay out of it
Yeah, so I can't slight you for not knowing intricate details of the recording process of these albums or
I wish
anything.
I was there, but I was only like 15 whenever this album was recorded.
Lyrically though, this one I couldn't really nail this one down. He talks about like being drunk, and then about hating policemen, and then about liking shitty punk rock bands that all sound the same, kind of a thing. I was trying to piece it together. In the second like verse of the song, he says, I mean, I guess I'll just read the first two. He says, "Well, just because I don't drink, don't mean I don't hate stupid drugs." It took a second to read. But just because I'm singing, that don't mean shit. It don't mean that I'm not one. Saying that, like, yeah, I could be one of the drunk, stupid people that I hate. And then the second section, second verse passage, whatever, we're reading a Bible. It says, "But those jerks by the kegs, they aren't leaving me no ground to stand on. So if we're picking sides, I guess that I hate the policeman and the white man tonight." Which, it sounds great when he sings it.
Yeah.
Like there's something like charismatic and it's fun, ignoring the context of the lyrics. But I was trying to figure this out, and the only thing that I could barely like figure out is when he says "those jerks by the kegs." I was thinking, okay, maybe it's a metaphor for like the government regulating various substances or something, or just regulating in general things. So while he's trying to get wasted, they aren't like letting him, so he sides against them. But then I was like, well, then what does that make the booze in this metaphor? Because if it's a metaphorical keg, then like he's probably not actually just singing about alcohol. So I was hoping maybe you could shine some light on this.
So I've always kind of just taken this one as like he's at a party and there's like some bro dudes by the kegs, I guess, who are like just giving him shit because he's not like a normal whatever person, I guess. And
But would he be at that kind of party?
That's what I don't know. Like, there's so many times where, like, I think he also had like I'm sure he had a semi-normal teenage experience at times. Just given some of the songs that he's written seem, not every song he writes is necessarily like super political. Like
Right.
this one kind of is, because he's like,
yeah, he literally says, "I guess that I hate the policeman and the white man tonight."
Yeah, but I feel like the policeman is a given. Like that's why he's saying like, if we're picking sides, I hate the policeman, and that's a given. We know that.
Right.
And whenever he says the white man, I think he's talking about the jerks by the kegs who are just like shitty bro white dudes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So he's kind of like saying like, in addition to hating policemen, now I guess I fucking hate white people too because they're not letting me drink. I gotcha. That makes more sense.
That's kind of how I've taken it, which I mean, in the grand scheme of like the whole punk aspect, political aspect, it's kind of just like okay.
Yeah, it's kind of silly, I suppose, but yeah, I think that makes more sense than my weird metaphor that I was trying to fit in somehow.
Which, I mean, who knows? Like, it could be anything. I don't know.
Pat the money if you're listening. Shine some fucking light on your lyrics because you don't make no sense, man.
Please do. That would be amazing if I could talk to you.
Yeah, talk to him. Don't talk to Jesus though, or maybe do talk to Jesus though, because Jesus does the dishes. How the fuck are you supposed to segue that?
That's what I was saying at the beginning, and you were like, "Nah, man."
Look, I mean, a lot of these aren't as esoteric, but Jesus does the dishes is maybe a bit of a stretch for things.
Hell yeah! What do you think about this song, huh?
Track number 7. I didn't have a lot to note musically, other than it's got some southern rock vibes on it. It's got the harmonica, some fuzzy guitars. It's pretty cool.
There we go. Yeah, it's back to a more punk rock section. There's like electric guitars and everything coming back, and distortion, all that cool stuff. I really, really like the message of this song.
Yes.
Like the idea of personal responsibility and talking about all these people who are out there just kind of just wanting to be a part of something, so they join a revolution, and then they're like, wait, like they can't comprehend what happens whenever the government falls, and they're like, oh shit, like I don't have these people to do all this stuff for me every day. Like in the first song he's talking about like, we're filling in potholes and collecting trash, and in this song it's talking about something as simple as doing the dishes, and somebody's asking, who does the dishes after the revolution? And he's like, I do my own dishes now, and I'll do my own dishes then. And it's always the ones who don't who ask that fucking question. Like talking about these people, like, what are you doing? If you can't handle doing the dishes, why are you here? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I really like that line. I think it's cool. I do my dishes now, I'll do them then, and the only people that are concerned about that are the people that don't wash their own fucking dishes, kind of thing. But this is maybe one of the more tangenty sections.
Go for it.
That is just like this is again him dreaming of this utopia, right? And calling all the haters out and saying, look, like I can look after myself, I can police myself. It's you who clearly can't survive without the police. And I'm not really sure that what that's proving, because to me it seems more like the exact reason that the utopia can't work, right? Because people do need some sort of order to sustain themselves, especially on a large scale. It's one thing to have you and a group of friends living on some commune somewhere and kind of keeping to yourself, but on a larger scale, like the world as a whole can't survive that way, just logistically and feasibly. Like, I don't know, it seemed kind of weird to me. And then the second verse kind of ties back the hypocrisy that I complained about last week, where he says that Jesus told people to drop out and find God, which to me kind of came across as like saying reject that system of beliefs and accept mine instead, which is no different than just leaving things the way they are now in regards to the government or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely get the parallel of he just says, lately I've been thinking about how I love Jesus, because Jesus was a dirty homeless hippie peace activist, like,
yeah,
and who's just spreading an ideology. And yeah, that at its core, everything, you can't dismantle any sort of authority whenever there is a belief system to back it up, because that is instantly going to establish another authority.
right.
Like, but yeah. So
that's something that I think I do rant again at the end of the album about that.
There is always going to be that paradox whenever you're talking about, like, unless, like you said, if it's a couple of people living in a commune, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But there is not ever going to be a full society without some sort of hierarchy. Like,
right.
You can't have like groups of thousands of people
just all doing their dishes.
Yeah.
And keeping their own shit organized, because people don't like that. People will see that and they will try to seize power and control from that.
Yeah, and then
try to manipulate others into doing their work for them.
Because that's the thing. You're out of those thousands of people, you're going to see one person who's like, if everybody's doing, we'll take the dishes example. We're going to see everybody doing their own dishes. There's going to be that one guy who's like, shit, I have a machine that does my dishes. And I can, if you all just pay me, I'll do your dishes for you. And then that right there, boom, authority of some sort.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it starts.
There's no good way to implement this dream on a large scale, unfortunately. I love the dream. I'm not shitting on the dream. I think that would be fantastic if everyone could just take responsibility for themselves and cooperate with other people to get things that they cannot get themselves or whatever. But maybe it's just me being cynical, but I don't think it's possible.
And I mean, I think it's just a large society thing.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Like, and if you have a small society, you better make sure that you have a diverse skill set. You can't have you can have a commune of 50 people, but if they're all corn growers, corn farmers, then and nothing else, you're gonna be like, shit, we don't need all this corn. What we need is
textiles. We need clothes.
We need somebody who can build a house. You can't build a house out of corn.
I mean,
I guess you could. Corn cobs. Corn cobs are pretty strong.
I don't know if they're that strong, but I think I'm not gonna dive deep into that. But just because I don't say anything about that doesn't mean I've got nothing to say. I'm just not gonna get into it here.
Oh my god, track number 8. Just because I don't say anything doesn't mean I've got nothing to say, and that was an excellent segue.
See, they're easy.
There you go.
That's just a sentence that somebody can say, and it doesn't matter the context. Anyways, this one starts off with some more that kind of bluesy harmonica feel, and the only other musical note I have on it is, man, his voice is just awful.
Oh shit. I love his voice on this song. I love his voice in this whole album. So every time you say that you don't like it, I'm gonna say that I do like it. That way,
it's a balance.
Yep. But yeah, I like it probably for all the reasons that you don't like it. So.
Exactly.
But this one, like, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot going on musically. You said it. Lyrically, this one is kind of one of the ones I was alluding to earlier, where it's not really a political thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just a song about his life and talking about kind of the loneliness that comes with the life that he's chosen. And I just like it as a companion to I Want Cancer for Christmas from Love Songs for the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Where he kind of draws a parallel where he was talking about, I remember being 6 years old and being the only one sitting alone. And then 10 years later, not much had changed since he was 6 years old, or whatever the exact lyric was. And this one, the first verse ends with, I'd be sitting alone at a lunch table in high school if I wasn't sitting alone at a punk show in Asheville. Keeping the lonely theme, he's like, it's just wherever I go, that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, I do like this one. It is kind of a strange inclusion on this album because it is very different lyrically. And like you've said, it's kind of just about being a sad boy and being alone or whatever. I do really like, there's a line he says, I might have kissed you wearing a bulletproof vest, but hell, you kiss like a rocket. Which I don't know. I just like the imagery of it, and I like it's very like it's a well written line.
It is. I agree. It's a very generally out of I guess character line to just have in a Pat the Bunny song, but he does it very well. And since you pointed out that line, I have to point out the last line because I fucking love it. It's just the way he's like. Seeing so many videos of him playing this live, he's just screaming it in somebody else's house because he doesn't have a room to stay in. It ends, I'd be a teenage virgin jerking off in my bedroom if I wasn't a 20-year-old virgin that didn't have a bedroom. And it's great. It is chef's kiss.
It is something. Yeah, I think lyrically he knows what's up. I like the song lyrically, even though it doesn't really like fit with a lot of the other songs that he sings.
It's probably why you like it.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, that could very well. There's nothing disagreeable here, so of course I like it. It's not disagreeable for a girl in Rhinelander, Wisconsin either.
Yeah, but you know what? It's very agreeable for a girl in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Track number 9 for a girl in Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Yes, this one you're gonna love this, Joey. So some plucky solo acoustic guitar and some more just awful vocals.
Well, for that one, I have to counter some more plucky guitar and some more just great vocals.
I just can't. I don't know what it is. And I know I've talked about this. I just can't. I don't know what it is.
His voice is super strained.
Well, yeah,
parts in this song.
I feel like I should be able to get over that.
Well, I mean, his voice just straight up like cracks at several times, which I think is a generally disagreeable sound whenever it comes to people singing in music. So I don't fault you.
But at the same time, like I understand that is it's empowering, right? I mean, it's powerful to be able to hear people being successful in music and not being able to sing. Like that's cool as shit, and I respect the hell out of them for it, and people love it. A lot of people love it, but I don't know. There's just something about it that I can't. That doesn't justify it in my mind for some reason. But yeah, lyrically, this one it's a pretty short and sweet song about being bummed that girls are raised thinking that they can't sing in rock and roll bands because they're not male, and that's the conception, is that like, oh, only that's a genre for men to sing kind of a thing, which is not true.
It's not true. And this song, as we have, I mean, we haven't talked about it in a while, but people who have been listening for the long fucking time that we've been doing this podcast know that at one point in my life, I had a very big chip on my shoulder about female vocalists, and that was something that I kind of had to get over. And I feel like this song was one of the things that, like, it's not like I hadn't been listening to any female vocalists at this time. It had kind of been working its way in. I was dealing with my shit of whatever the fuck was going on with me. And this song was kind of just like the nail in the coffin. That was like, it put it into perspective that it's like, not necessarily like any female vocalist gives two shits what I think about their music.
Yeah.
but if there's enough people out there who think like me and just straight up do not give it a chance, that's just a shitty thing to have to deal with. Yeah, it is. Like, and just, it kind of just put it in my head, like, not that I should have been thinking it before. It's crazy to look back on stuff like that and be like, what the fuck was I doing? What's wrong with me? Like, there were plenty of female vocalists out there that had to deal with this shit in droves whenever they tried to sing their songs and play their music, and I was just one of those people.
Yeah, and I think it is also a kind of a regional thing. That, I mean, it's definitely a regional thing in that around here specifically, they're like in the Midwest and stuff, and in Wisconsin, like he says in the song, he says, well, I don't think they got Bikini Kill records in small town Wisconsin record shops, but that's where they need them now more than ever, kind of a thing. Which it's cool. I fuck with that. that's something that I believe, but it's true. Like in the Midwest specifically, it seems it's more quote unquote traditional, right? People have conformed to older ideologies, and so anything that changes, that is new, is bad, kind of a thing. Whereas in cities, that it's much more progressive. It's easier to bring about those kind of changes in society, I think.
Yeah, fuck society, but also, I guess, not fuck society that is big enough to embrace change, because my idea of fun is embracing change, so I'll go to that society.
Hell yeah. You know what my idea of fun is, Joey?
What?
Talking about track number 10.
Is my idea of fun. Ending this podcast of this album that you hate?
No, I don't hate this album, Joey. I'm just gonna say I don't hate this album. I don't hate anything that's happened this week or last week. HJJ was cool too. Not still not sold on Mischief Brew, but this is a fun experience for me. Anyways, track number 10, My Idea of Fun, was the segue that I don't remember if I called out. I think I did. Anyways, this one, it has a little clean acoustic intro that sets a very nice, like, wistful kind of feeling for me. It's got some muted guitar plucking that come in under the vocals for the verse, and his voice at the start of this one is notably more like calm and chill, which sounds better to me than his yelling voice that he normally goes to. This one feels to me like it should have a full band kind of going with it, but it doesn't, which was kind of weird. It felt a little empty, I guess. And the piano comes in late to kind of emphasize how soft and cuddly he is as he sings "fuck blank because we're enough," which is kind of the refrain of it. He's just saying, like, no, fuck this because we're enough as people. But that's kind of getting into the lyrics. There's trumpet, banjo comes in towards the thing, and then there's this lovely outro string section.
Hell yeah.
Which is just, it's a great way to end the album. And I don't know, I felt like the majority of the song, granted, this is the longest song on the album by far.
Yeah.
It's 6.5 minutes. All the other songs are around 2 minutes. But yeah, I don't know, it felt like it was missing a band for at least the first section of it before it kind of shifted to the piano thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I've never known this song another way, and so obviously. Like, I didn't just go in and add music to it. But like, I don't know. I was very into the not big like rest of. I was very into the acoustic, I guess, side of it whenever I heard this. So that's just, it sounds completely right to me. But now that you say that, I think it would be cool to hear a full band version of it.
Right.
Especially because, like you said, the trumpet and the banjo and stuff at the end, I love that. And then this is me just wanting to make the perfect playlist. And so that cello outro, string outro, whatever, it feels like it should go into a Defiance, Ohio song, which Defiance, Ohio is the band that Theo Hilton from Nana Grizzle is like started in, I guess. But they have a lot of like string stuff. So I feel like there's a perfect segue between songs there, and I just can't find it. And it irks me. And if the song had a full band, it would definitely work even better. So
interesting.
That's me. That's my life, and that's what
that's my playlist brain.
Yeah, but so lyrically, the song, it covers a lot of ground. Like it's 6.5 minutes long. So
yeah,
it starts off in a place that could explain, I guess, how Pat got on the path he did about always feeling lost and running from anything that could be seen as structure. He's talking about running away from every home he's ever had, which is like, I take as, I guess, a symptom of his absolute rejection of authority, where he's just like, anything that could possibly provide structure, I'm out.
Yeah, physically like, or societally.
Yeah.
It's a no-go.
And like, that's a criticism of himself. And it talks about, then goes on to talk about, I guess, the feeling that I know is prevalent through, I guess our generation, future. I think it's just a common thing, but it seems to get talked about a lot with
pronounced nowadays.
Yeah, where it's like feeling like you're super smart, or being told that you're super smart, and having all these expectations and stuff, and then growing up to the realization that like maybe you are, but there's more to being smart than just being smart, and you don't like have the tools to make it. You grow up and realize that like, oh, I'm pretty average. Like maybe I felt smarter than other people because maybe like my brain developed at a different time, or like I did used to know surface level information, and now that surface level information only took me so far. But I don't know. It's kind of like the realization of that, and then about the work that comes with the life that Pat has chosen, and how people tend to think of people without jobs as lazy, but it's a lot of work to just survive while living that life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep rambling because I have so much more.
Oh yeah, I mean the song is packed, like you said. I mean, there's a lot to kind of dissect there. So I'm not going to stop you if you I mean, because seriously, like every section of the song is just kind of like adding to it, where he's talking everything that you've said, and then he kind of goes into like a kind of a more macabre, depressing direction.
Yeah.
Where he says that I like this the way he says this. He says, because I've watched friends go from being pessimists to work at home archaeologists. They dig skin deep and they work hard every day on burying their arms for a vein or two that maybe they forgot, which I don't know if that's actually what he says, but regardless, to me at least, maybe I assume it was obvious that he was talking about people cutting themselves or getting into self-harm because of something. That's the way I took it, as digging skin deep and like burying. To me, in my mind, it was like burying a knife into their arms, looking like digging for veins, kind of a thing.
I had never thought of it that way. I'd always thought of it as heroin addiction. You're looking for a vein to shoot up.
That's probably more accurate, but I think my mind was in that.
I mean, it works either way.
Yeah, it does for sure, and it furthermore it double works, because the justification that I was getting from that is in the next section. He's talking about someone that wanted to die, someone that was depressed and was considering suicide, but every time that she had those feelings, she would shoot dope, and then she got caught doing drugs, and then they put her on house arrest and threatened to throw her in jail if she leaves her house, kind of thing, which is a fucked up solution to that situation. Right? If someone's depressed and they're turning to drugs to kind of cope with that depression, and then saying like, now you're stuck in your house, furthermore, if you try to leave your house, you're going to fucking jail, like that's not a good solution for anything.
It is not helping anybody except for the people running the jail or the prison or whatever.
They're trying to build a prison.
Yes. System of a Down wreck, Prison Song. Go listen to that if you
I
want
feel
to
like
hear.
we shouted that song out not too long ago.
I'm sure we did, because the prison system is totally fucked up, and it
is
something that gets talked about a lot in punk songs. But
because
yeah,
it's fucked. But then from there, the song progresses further, and he kind of goes back to that kind of dream world of trying to build the new world. And this is where I kind of like respect the amount of like thought and rationalization he put into it, because then he says, now all we need is an economy where everybody will finally get enough to eat. And to me, that was kind of like him saying, like, look, I know it's not that easy.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, all we need is enough food to feed everybody, and
yeah,
bada boom bada bing, we've fixed the issues that the world's facing. But yeah,
yeah. It's the realization that it's a root problem. Like, it's from
mm-hmm.
the core, from the very core is the problem. Like, there's so much, like, to bring up, I guess, the food example where everybody will get enough to eat. There's transportation issues. There's like, because there's technically enough food that if everybody could get the food, it would
Right.
work. But there's the economy driven bullshit
There's
that has
greed.
to do, yeah, there's greed. And then there's transportation. There's like getting the food to the people and getting it out, which again is a symptom of greed. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we got fucking trains and trucks and planes and shit. Like, we can get food places, but it's an at the core problem that is not, it's a huge undertaking. And yeah, he definitely like hits on that, where he's like, yeah, that's the, I do like the way he phrases it, where it's like, yeah, all we need is that. And then goes on to say, like, it's even the suburbs know power is getting too crooked to stand on its own feet for much longer than it has. Where
Mm-hmm.
he's like, even the people who previously weren't affected by these issues are now starting to realize, like, shit, not
This isn't
everything is,
sustainable.
yeah, like, this isn't sustainable. Not everything is like, I don't know, the nice veneer that you saw in the past of, like, I don't know, people always seem to go back to like the 50s or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Back
like,
back
not,
when women weren't allowed to speak and think.
yeah, and black people couldn't use the same fucking water fountains as,
Yeah.
what? Like, how, what? Are you
Yeah.
fucking serious? Is that the time that
That's
people are going back
that's the
to?
dream America. That's the fucking problem. Is that
God.
like so many people in the South and in the Midwest specifically, not that they don't exist in cities as well, but like that is the ideal America for them. That is what
Well,
people want
then
to return to.
they need to fucking leave, man. Like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here.
But that in itself is kind of also one of those criticisms that we touched on earlier, with this utopia that he's dreaming about and wanting. Like the rest of the song, he does so in a more mature way. He says
Yeah.
specifically, so I don't want to kill a cop. What I want is neighborhoods where they don't have to get called when the shit goes down, because our friends, they're enough, and our neighbors have enough, and finally we're enough. And then the rest of the song is him just saying, like, we're enough is the refrain. But I think that similar mindset of like saying, well, if you want, 50s America, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you here. Go somewhere else. That in itself is kind of the same thought of this utopia, right? Because saying, eventually, if you're saying we can police ourselves, I want all of my friends to just exist. Everyone's going to have enough. There's not going to be any issues, kind of a thing. I think even moving that way, you're still setting boundaries, right? If someone comes in and tries to disrupt that, you're still setting a rule and saying, no, if somebody like comes in and takes more than they need, we're going to take action against them to ensure that it doesn't happen again, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then you're just the government. You're just the police that you're trying so hard to get away from.
Yeah, there's no, and I mean, maybe I haven't looked enough into it. Maybe in the texts of Pierre Joseph Proudhon, or just other people who write these long like dissertations on anarchism and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe there's a solution in there that I just
Yeah.
can't think of because I'm a dumb person. But but like it seems like if you have any sort of society, there's gonna be somebody making decisions
Yeah.
for the society. Like, and even like, so if everybody takes a vote on everything too, like maybe you have 20 people in your society and you're like, we're not gonna have one person who's in charge, we all vote on stuff. But then there's still if 15 people vote for one thing and 5 people vote for the other, and they're doing the thing that 15 people voted for, technically those 15 people are then the authority over the 5 people that voted for the other thing. Like, there's no way
there's always going to be some sort of rule, some sort of boundaries that are set by people. Even if it is by the majority of people, there's still some exclusion, and there will always be people rebelling against that. Because, like you said, if there are 15 people that vote yay and 5 people that vote nay, that's 5 people that aren't going to be happy in that society, and they're going to cause issues. And so then it becomes the burden, I guess, of the 15 to then enforce those rules upon the 5 that are disagreeable, right? Which is, again, you're just right back where you started with creating a police force, creating a government to make sure that your order is maintained.
Yeah, I think, like
that's my general problem with his utopia. I think it's great. I would love for his utopia to exist.
Yeah,
but it's a pipe dream.
And I think that's I've alluded to in previous episodes, like this. Pat the Bunny kind of he's done an arc, and he doesn't perform Johnny Hobo songs because he's not that person anymore.
Right.
And I think he started playing music again recently, but for a long period of time he stopped playing music because he fell out of the scene. He was like, I don't really agree. Like, the viewpoints of that movement and my viewpoints no longer align.
Right.
And I think he kind of got like, and not to say that he ever necessarily thought this utopia is going to happen. I mean, it's a utopia. Like, it's literal perfect situation,
right?
Dream world. But I think, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I think what a lot of people get caught up in is there are a lot of extremely enticing ideals in this line of thought, which, if applied to a better society than we have, could make something great. I think, like,
and maybe the point isn't to reach that utopia, but being able to dream of that utopia and make steps to make this world better in that direction, as opposed to just saying, well, we're never going to hit that utopia, so we might as well not even try, kind of thing. So maybe that's the point that I'm avoiding confronting when I'm talking shit about the utopia, is that obviously the utopia is not going to happen, but it's better to try to achieve that than to just say, oh, well, it can't happen, so I'm not going to try.
Because then nobody's moving forward, and shit's only going to go backwards, because it's not even going to stay stagnant, because there's the people who are in power. You don't just stop at a certain... You're not like, I have 50 powers. I am now going to stop. You're like, no, I want it all. It's all mine. I need it.
Indeed.
And then I'm going to build a rocket and go to space.
Yes, that. Yes.
Oh,
fuck you. Fuck Amazon. That's
fuck
Jeff Bezos.
Fuck Jeff Bezos. Also, fuck Elon Musk.
Yeah. Fuck them all. All those billionaires who...
Fuck billionaires. Yeah, there we go. Fuck billionaires and the whole idea of billionaires. If you have $1 billion, don't. Just fucking don't.
Just don't have $1 billion.
You should... There is no reason that anyone should have $1 billion, because no one who ever made $1 billion got it entirely morally. Like, you got it from exploiting other people's
you fuck
work.
Other people over.
Like, there's no way that you can make $1 billion ethically. So just don't, people. Just fucking don't.
Unless you inherit it, then technically I guess you're in the moral good by inheriting $1 billion, but you should still donate a lot of it.
Yeah, in that point,
you should cease to have $1 billion.
Exactly. I think if you're a billionaire for about like maybe 15 minutes, long enough for it to take to go from the will office to the get fucking rid of all of this excessive hoard office. Whatever that walk takes, if you're a billionaire for that amount of time, then I guess that's fine. But any longer than that, and stop it.
And just don't. Anyways, we had a pretty good time.
Cool.
All things considered, with all the rambling.
Shit. Oh my god. Okay.
We're just over an hour.
I hadn't looked at the time yet.
I think we're still under what we did last week. We're whittling it back down. Yeah. But next week's going to be the finale of this journey, right?
Yeah.
So what are we doing? What album are we ending this little punk folk foray on?
So another band that Pat the Bunny was in is Ramshackle Glory, and we're listening to their album Live the Dream. I had told you it was called Live the Dream, Die the Nightmare. That's like a double. There's 2 albums, Live the Dream and Die the Nightmare. We're listening to Live the Dream. I told you incorrectly.
We're not doing the double album?
No. Well, they're kind of like Live the Dream is the one.
We'll start with Live the Dream, and then we'll discuss maybe if we want to extend our thing to include the double album.
Live the Dream is the one that I listened to and had a direct impact on me. Die the Nightmare is just cool. So
okay, well maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just do Live the Dream. Regardless, we are doing Live the Dream, I guess.
Yes.
I should say that is our next album. So you guys feel free to listen to that with us. Let me know if you want to argue about anarchy and utopias and shit. I am genuinely curious to read more about Proudhon and his ideology, I suppose, just because
property is robbery.
I don't know. It seems it's an interesting statement to make, to say property is robbery, and I want to be sure that I'm getting the full understanding of what he means by that before taking some hot take and being like, no, he's wrong, kind of a thing.
You fucking dumb Proudhon.
If you guys listening know or have thoughts on that or anything else we've discussed this week, let us know in the comments. Shoot us messages. You already know. We're hopefully. Social media. You know how content on the internet works at this point, right? Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. Let us know what you think. I'm genuinely curious. I want to hear from anarchists and other people that are saying got them. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, let us know. Let us talk to us. Communicate with us. Come back. Ramshackle Glory, Live the Dream next week. Same time, same place. Unless I forget to upload the episode, which happens. Stay on our feedback loop.
Bye.